Okay, that started. All right. So CSS means what? Cascading styling sheets. And over time, if you've heard me talk about CSS, I'll say CSS is like giving body to a skeleton. That's our to our HTML. And the body you're giving includes its features, how you make the body more pretty, more defined, and all of those things, right? So today we'll start off and we'll start with CSS. So there's a particular CSS, like there's a way CSS should be written. There's a way HTML is written. It's the same way CSS should be written. So the CSS is made up of rules that refer to HTML elements. And these rules, the idea behind these rules is to style your elements, right? You can remember yesterday I said that the element is called a selector, and a selector can have more than one declaration. So a CSS rule is made up of a selector and one or more declarations. So the selector includes your elements, your class name, your ID. So the selector just basically tells the browser what elements you want to style. So the elements you want to style, may just write the element name, or you can represent the element using your class name or your ID name. So it's something like this, something that you can see here. Can you see it? So we can see our H2, then we have our curly bracket. Compared to your HTML, whereby you just have tags. But for your CSS, you use what? A selector, and the selector has curly brackets. So like I said, the selector can be the element. It is the element you're trying to style, right? So the elements you're trying to style can be the name of the element, like maybe PH1, or a class name given to that element, or an ID name given to that element, right? So your selector always have a curly bracket, and I said it then. It now says it can have more than one declaration. So this declaration consists of what? A property and a value. So when you write a property and a value, it's going to actually give you what? A declaration. So a declaration basically tells the browser what style you want to apply to your selector. And that selector is either your elements, right? So your declaration, like I said, is in two parts: properties and values. So it was the properties I told us to read up yesterday. So who wants to quickly tell me 10 properties that they know now? Anybody? Anybody? Let's do that quickly.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so can you list 10 properties?
We have fonts,
Mm-hmm.
text align,
Mm-hmm.
color, um, text align, color, this font family,
Mm-hmm.
um, justify content, text align, align items,
Mm-hmm.
um, align. Okay, you said 10, Abby. How many have I
Yes.
mentioned?
I guess 6 now. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. Um, which other one? Font size.
Set font size. But someone is raising their hands up. Lovett is raising their hands.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Fatima. You actually tried. So, Lovett, can you continue from where she stopped? Or your just it was your hand raising
Uh,
was quick.
okay, we have padding, we have
Mm-hmm.
position, we
Mm-hmm.
have border, we have
Mm-hmm.
margin, we have height, we have weight,
Mm-hmm.
we have font style, font color,
Mm-hmm.
font weight, We have text align, like she said. Other thing again. No. I think
Alright.
that's all I know. Yeah.
Right, well done, guys. So Fatima and Love It, thank you so much. You guys have tried. So that's a couple of properties that we have, right? And the idea behind these properties is for you to affect the element and for you to give the element a particular design or style that we want the element to have. Then the value now includes on the value of the property you're trying to give. So for color, there are different types of color. So you're the one that will pick the color you want. For font size, you can pick from 0 to 1 million. For excuse me, for font family, there are various types of font family. Text align, you can either put left, right, or center. For your width is either measured in what? Centimeters, percentage, and all of those things. So this is what a declaration looks like. So this is a declaration. Can you see it? A property and a value. In this case, we have what? Background color and what? Green. So that's why this is the place where what UI UX comes in, right? So if a UI UX person has designed your web page, right, for you to translate that web page that they've designed into what a web understands, right? What you do is that you will now look at that UX design, right? That UI UX is like a guide. I see building a website like knowing the end from the beginning. What do I mean? I'll explain what I mean by that. You've already visualized what your website should look like. You already know what your website is like. So you're trying to achieve what that website is with your HTML and CSS. And it's important to start with your markup, right? So when you've started with your markup, when you've done your markup, you just know that, okay, what you just have to do now is design all those markup. Excuse me, I'm sorry that I'm running this much. So when you've designed done your markup, that's your HTML, then start designing based on what you can see, right? Trying to achieve what you can see, and what you use to achieve what you can see is your CSS. So this is what a declaration looks like. Don't forget, when you declare your property in a selector, it ends with a colon. Then when you give a value, it ends with a semicolon. So that's the syntax on how to write it, right? So like I said, the value, the part after the colon, is specific to the property type. So the part after the volume is just only direct to the property, nothing else. So size related properties like width, height, width, or font size are usually specified in pixels, while color related properties are specified with a color name. So I've taught us about color, right, when we're doing HTML. So that part that we are doing, right, that's pixels part, right, is not only pixels, it can be measured in what percentage too. It can measure the centimeter and em. And while for color name, we know the different ways where we can. Who can remind us about the different ways at which you can add a specific color or color code? There are like 5 different ways apart from name how you can express your color code. Can somebody remind us quickly?
Okay, you have RGB, RGBA, HX, S, LS, LSA.
All right. Thank you so much, Elise. So she said RGB, RGBA, HEX, HSL, HSLA, right? And we all know how to like combine all of these together to give us what we want. So let's note that it's actually very important that we write our syntax correctly. That is, after our property, there's a colon, and after the property name, there's a semicolon. And this select declaration is found in a what? In a selector. And that selector is what? The elements we're trying to style. I guess it's adding up, right? Is it adding up? So I've taught us three different ways at which we can add our style prior to now, right? I taught us about the inline. I taught about, yeah, Jesus Christ. I thought about, hey, that was my phone. Thank God it didn't break. So I thought about inline, I thought about internal, and I've taught us about what? External, right? So who can briefly tell me how to do everything, the three of them? How to include the inline, external, and
Okay. When you are doing the inline style, after you've written your HTML tag, you add the style inside the tag. Like for example, now you want to style the heading tag H2. After you've written that, you add the style inside before you close the tag. Then the internal style, within the head element, you bring out the style tag. So it's within that style tag that you are going to put all your styles. Then the external, you create a separate file with .css. Then you put all your styles there, and then you link it inside the HTML using the link tag.
Which one did you just say?
The last one is external. I said you create a separate file with .css. Then you link it inside the HTML using the link tag.
Yeah. All right, beautiful. Well done, love it. I love this energy. You guys are doing well this morning. I love it. I love to see it. I love it so much. All right, so thank you guys. Ijoma, I saw that you're trying to raise your hand. Were you trying to answer the question too, or you have something to say? Ijoma. Okay, let's continue. All right, so this is how the syntax look like, right? We will see this when we did the calculator together yesterday. So you can see that we added what? Background color, green, font size, 28 pixels, right? So you can add multiple declaration. You can have property value sets to one selector to modify multiple properties, right? We can have something like that. Wait, before I even lose card, let me see what we have in our curriculum. Okay. Okay. We already even know, we're all sure about how to, I mean, we all know how to create a CSS file now, right? I taught us last week. If you know how to do it, can I get a thumbs up? Oh, Fatima, and please, thank you. I'm just saying this, sorry. If you know how to create the CSS file. All right, okay. So now we all understand and we're all clear on the basics, right? If you are clear on the basics and selectors, I just explain selectors and syntax now. If you are clear on it, give me your favorite emoji so that we can proceed and move to the next one.
Sorry to take you guys back. I'm not on that one because I've not listened to the record.
Who is that person?
It's Elise.
Okay. All right, Elise, you can ask your question.
Oh, I'm just saying that I'm not clear. You were asking those that were clear on the basics and the selectors and all of that. And I was saying that I'm not clear on that one. Like I don't know it at all. So
Okay. All right. So I just did it today. Like I'm just talking about it this morning. So everything I've talked about this morning is the basics. That is you heard when I talked about selection, right? And I talked about
yes.
selectors and I spoke about syntax. Did you hear me say that? Then I was saying that this is how the
No,
syntax look like.
when I do, just so that I don't take class back, I'll be recording.
Okay. So I'll show you how to create a CSS file. Don't worry. We'll create one. We'll actually create one for our classwork project. So in where we create one for that, I'll show you. I'm trying to open W3 schools. It's not going. Can everybody hear me? I don't know if it's my network. So can you guys hear me? Okay, all right. So let's open W3 schools. So we're doing W3 schools and we're doing our classwork like simultaneously, right? I'll be using both of them so that you have easier, more understanding. All right, so I've already explained CSS, I've explained some things now. So just quickly do this exercise, right? So in this case, P is going to act as what? You can see my screen, right? What should be right? So in this P selector, what will give the value red? Which property will give you the value red? So let's quickly do this exercise you can see on my screen. If you are done, thumbs up. All right. So Anu is done. Who else is done? Peace is done. Who else? Fatima is done. Who else? Please, can you mute yourself? Lovett is done. Who else? At least 2 is done. Okay, that's 5 done here. So let me do it. Please, co-host, can you mute that person? All right, thank you. All right, so let's continue. So what we're expected to do here is just to add the word P selector, right? And declare the property. So the property in this case is what? Color, right? And don't forget our word, semicolon. And that's it. It's actually more than one. But we'll do the remaining exercise as we proceed. So let's move. When we're done with this HTML and CSS, we'll take the quiz, right? We should take the quiz. When we're done with everything, we should take before, like maybe by the end of this week when we finish CSS. We'll just do the quiz, then we'll not start building our project just to test our knowledge on what we've learned so far. So I told us that CSS means what? Cascading styling sheets, and CSS describes how the HTML element should be displayed on screen, paper, or in other media. So let me also mention something. In cases whereby you don't have a UI UX, right? You don't have a design, it's better you draw it out first self before you start doing anything. Like you can draw it out on a piece of paper, right? You can try to visualize it, like maybe draw it out in blocks or something. You can use paint to do the various section you want to use. I can show us Let me see if my paint is in here. My paint app, right? So let me just quickly show us that. So if, for instance, now you want to, or if you've checked, you have an idea of the kind of website you want to create, right? So maybe this is audio web page, right? So if this audio web page, you now want, okay, this audio web page, right? It can be longer than this. You just want to use it to have an idea of what you want to do, because I say it's like seeing the end from the beginning. So you have like your nav bar, right? So your nav bar is somewhere around here. So we can come here and write what's nav bar. I'm just showing us an example so that we have an idea of what we want to do if we are to like create a website. Then this down place too can be our footer. This place can be your footer. Then your nav bar can have what? Home. You can have home. Maybe you can have about. You can have different things, different links you want it to have. Then your home page can have different sections. Maybe this part will be your where your background image will be, your big background image, right? If you can remember when we were doing layouts from HTML, it's a bit similar. Then maybe we have another one here, like a section, this place, there's image here. That place is for image, and this place is for a writing. It's just basically giving you a visualization of what your web page is before you start doing it. It just helps you like know the properties to use, like the properties to use to achieve what you want to achieve. Then this placement, this is just like a rough sketch or something. So have you seen that? All right, so let's continue. So you can have, there are actually different types of websites, right? You can have a one-page HTML website, and you can have more than one page. So the classwork we're using is a one page, whereby if you want to go to your home or about, they are in sections, but you're not going to leave that page. Everything is in that same page. When you click on home, it just take you to the section that has home. When you click on about, it just take you to the section that has about. But for web pages whereby you use it to teach, like W3 schools, those ones, they are not one page, they are multiple pages. Is same page, different, sorry, it will be same page, different style sheets. An example is all these e-commerce websites, something like W3 schools and the like, right? So I'll show you a demo. This one here now, this one is the one with what? Multiple styles, that is one page but different style sheets. That's when you click on this style sheet to carry it to another place. Can you see? Welcome to my home page. So same page, different style sheet. Then this is what you have. Can you see the footer here? Can you see the up place that has the nav bar and the head? Then if you are done with the home page, you still have the link that can take you to other places, right? So you can now go to this place. So this is another one. Welcome to my home page, right? This is another one. Or you can go to another place. So this is now another part again. All of this is still connected to one website, but they just have different style sheets in that same website folder. Maybe we have our assignment folder and we're able to link our table to it, right? That is the idea behind this one. And there's some web page that is just one page. You are not moving anywhere. It's just that one page that you use. So you use CSS to define styles for your web page, including the design, layout, and variations. Variations just include responsive, that is how it is displayed on different screens. So CSS solved a big problem, right? Before CSS could design websites, in the olden days, websites used to be very ugly. Imagine just having just only HTML, right? So it's just only HTML they had. There was no colors, there was nothing to make it beautiful. But the CSS came and it achieved and made websites more beautiful than how it looks. So it's very important that you know how to use your website if you want to have beautiful web pages. So HTML was never intended to contain tags for formatting a web page. HTML was created to describe the content of a web page, like maybe heading, paragraph. And when tags like fonts and color attributes were added to the HTML 3.2 specification, it started a nightmare for web developers. Development of large websites where font and color information were added to every single page became a very long and expensive problem. So that's why they brought CSS to solve this problem. So there's a body that controls everything that goes on the web page. Is a worldwide what? This word, Sha, I don't know how to pronounce it. Can you see the word?
Consortium.
Eh?
Consortium.
Consortium, whatever. So that word, it was those people, this group, the worldwide, this word that now created the words CSS, and that's how we have CSS. So CSS removed the style formatting from the web page to have its own. So it saves a lot of works. It just makes your work very beautiful, and it's very important that it's very, very important that you put it in your it has an external, so that it does not disturb that HTML page, right? When I was teaching us about good programming practice, I showed us about folders, about the importance of putting your web page in a folder. It just makes your work clean. Then in the folder you have where all your CSS will be, and why your CSS has a folder, because in some cases you can have more than one CSS page, especially if you are using a framework. If you're using a framework like Bootstrap, right? We're not going to do that, but I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So your CSS, I've said this, it consists of what? A selector, and selector has what? A declaration, and the declaration has property and the value, and your selector can have more than one declaration. So let's not waste time here. So about selectors, so the selectors are basically HTML, the HTML style you want to style. So there are 5 categories of selectors, right? Your selectors are used to find or select your HTML that you want to find, or your class or your ID name. That is, your element as a class or your ID, you want to style that class or ID. So you can divide CSS selector into 5 categories, right? Your selectors can be grouped into 5. The first one is what? Your simple selectors. The second one is what? Combinator selectors. The third one is studio class selectors. The fourth one is pseudo element selectors. And the fifth one is what? Attribute selectors. Who can tell me what these attribute selectors would be all about, based on the fact that we've done attributes before? Who wants to try? Like, we've done attributes in HTML when we're doing our elements. You know, some elements has attributes. So who wants to give me an idea of how the attribute selectors would be?
Can it
Anybody?
be like ID and classes?
Yeah, like IDs, and just based on your attributes, right? Based on your attributes and your value. Please give me a few minutes. All right, so for your simple selectors select elements based on name, ID, and class. right? That's how your simple selector work. While your combinator selectors, it selects elements based on a specific relationship between them. Don't worry, if you don't understand, you get to understand. Don't beat yourself up, right? You get to understand what I mean by based on a specific relationship between them. I'll show you. So we have pseudo class selectors. So this pseudo class selectors is based on a certain state. And if you notice, they said class. So it will be for just what? Just class, right? Therefore, pseudo elements is for select and style as part of an element. And for your attribute selector is to select elements based on an attribute or your attribute values. Please, can you mute yourself? Can the call self-mute person? All right. So for your CSS element selector, the element selector selects HTML elements based on the HTML element name. That's the one that you're familiar with, that I've mentioned earlier, that I've repeated over time in this class. Then there's also the one for ID. So I'll show you an example of element selectors. So can we see our element selectors? Yeah. So these are our element selectors. So now, for instance, we have P elements, right? But we call them P. So the moment when it saw P, what happens? It picked up all these P and it gave it this declaration that we gave it. We said text align center. That's why all the P you can see here is in the center. And we said color should be red. That's why the color is what? That's why the color is red. Then we also have for the ID, right? We also have for ID. So ID, we already said para 1. We're giving it a paragraph 1. So this paragraph 1, what we did here was that we now called ID, right? And I said if you want to use ID, what dots. So when we call this ID that has hash, you can see that it only affected the ID name. It did affect all the OP. There's more than one P here, but it's not, the second P was not affected. Just only one P that was affected. So the CSS class selector selects HTML elements with a specific class attribute. Class. So see the class example. So can you IDs, it was hash, right? That's what they used to style. Why for this one, it was what? Dots for class name, right? So in this example, only P elements with class equals to center will be red and aligned, right? So in as much as we can do dot center, we're saying that dot center should only what? Call class name that is what? Dot center. You can also style your element name, right? You can also style your element name using your words, using the name of the elements and the class name. So an example is this next one we'll see now. So the example of that one is this one here. So can we see? So we can see H1 and P, right? H1 and P as center, but we don't want both of them to have this text align and red. We only want P that has center name. So that's why before declared the selection, I mean the elements P first, then we now put dot center. That is the P that has what? A class name called dot center. If you see this dot center here, it affected all the class name that had what? Dot center. But this one, when we specified, right? It just only picked what? Only the P. It didn't pick all the whole class name that has center. It's only the P he picked. Then in this example, the P element will be styled according to the class name and to class large, right? So I'll show you what that means. So can you see this? We have what? More than one. That is, we have more than one center, right? Then one P now has two class name. The P has two class names, center and large. And apart from the fact that the P has center and large, the center is also now used in different class. Don't forget, when I was talking about ID and Ps from HTML, I say IDs are for what? Unique elements. That is, you can only use one ID for one element. Why for P? You can use one class name, rather class and ID. It's not P, class and ID. You can use one class name for different elements. But for ID, you can just only use one ID name for one element. So look at this thing they did here now, right? So they did center, P dot center. This P dot center is going to affect what? The part that has paragraph and a class name called dot center. But there's also a P that now has large, right? So in as much as this P will affect the P that has center, when we now call P that has large, it only affect the P that has large. It's not also affect the P that has center. That is why after the fact that it has text align center color, only P that has large now has font size of 300%. And this other P that has center is not affected because it does not have large. If it's that it had large, it would have been affected. If you understand what I've been saying so far, can you give me a thumbs up? And if you don't understand, can you give me the opposite of a thumbs up? So I'll know that we're all together. All right. So you guys are with me. Yeah. So let's continue. So a class name, note that a class name cannot start with a number. So anytime you want to do a class, don't start that class with a word number. So there's also something called universal selector. So the universal selector is what? Asterisk. So what it does is that it selects all your HTML elements on that page. I guess we used it here. We use it here. Okay, no, we didn't use it here. Okay, yes, we did. Can you see? We did. Can you see the universal selector? We use it here. So what it just does is that it's for all your elements, all your place that you have elements. And we now also specify that for the element that has before and the elements that has after. So when you see your asterisk, when you use your asterisk in your CSS, all these things are just rules, right? Like I always used to say, the computer is not smart. Okay, Daniel, what don't you understand before we go further? Because we're seeing these simple things. What don't you understand? Let me know now so that I can help out before we go further. Daniel, are you there? Daniel, you gave me the opposite of a thumbs up. Okay. Let's continue. So when you use asterisk is for what? Every HTML element on that page. So there's also CSS grouping selector. So the grouping selector selects all the HTML elements with the same style definition, right? So if you look at the following code, H1, H2, and P, they have the same style definitions. It's the same thing you want to give them. So what you just do is that you just group them. So it's better to group them to minimize the code. You just say H1, H2, P. All of you do this. instead of you to call it one by one and give them the same thing, you just group them together and say H1, H2, and P. That's what I want to style, and you group them together like that, right? So these are all what you just explained now are what CSS simple selectors. Don't worry, we'll still get to see the pseudo class, we'll still get to see the pseudo elements, we'll still get to see attribute selector. So can you see attribute selector here? Yes, attribute selector is here. This is your pseudo class, this is your pseudo element, this is your combinators. There are 5. And what we just did now is what simple selectors. So this, for the simple selectors, we have ID. An ID, for ID is a unique, is used for unique name, right? And unique name is just only limited to just one element. You cannot use one ID for 2 elements, but you can use one class for more than 2 elements. You can use one class for like 10 elements. Why for ID is just unique and it's just one. So your ID starts with hash and your class with dots. Then if you want to specify a class name that has a ID, I mean a class, an element that has a class, it will be element dot class. Then if you want to select all elements, you use your what? Asterisk. And if you want to select elements, you just put your P. Then if you want to select different, like you want to group them, right? All of them have the same thing, and you want to group them, you just say this element, comma, this element, comma, this element, comma. Then you style everything together. Is that clear? So let's do the exercise here quickly in the selectors. Yes, Ijoma, we are done with everything in HTML. Right, we're done. And Atiba, thank you so much for that feedback. I'll definitely do that. And I just even did so before I saw your, I just did a recap for all the CSS simple selectors. So let's do the exercise. And if you're done with the exercise, can I get a thumbs up? Still wants to see. If you're done with the exercise, the exercise is more than one. So the exercise is not just one, it's more than one. This is the exercise. It's 4. There are 4 exercises in the selectors. So if you're done with the exercise, let me know. And proceed. Are we done with that? Oh, God. All right. Okay. I get to 3 more dons, we proceed. So for the person that told me that they didn't get how to do the CSS external file, yes,
Hello, ma.
this is the time you should pay attention.
Hello, ma.
Someone was trying to say something. Hmm?
Yes, ma, it's me. I wanted to say that, but now the class is in progress. I wanted to say that while we're waiting, can you show me how to um link of an HTML file in the same folder? Like you showed us how to link it. So I can't remember, and I was wondering if you could go through it. But that
Okay.
can be after the class. If
That's what I want to do now, so because we want to do an exercise. So can we
okay.
remember our classwork folder? Can you remember? I know then I told us to do assignment and classwork, right? So throughout last week we didn't really do so much in the classwork. We only did our HTML markup, and that was all. So can we go back to that classwork folder? So if you want to open the old folder, just come here to file. You'll see open folder. Where you see open folder, it take you to where the folder is, right? So mine here is classwork. And I'll select on the folder. So can you see? This is my index. Then this is my CSS. I've linked my CSS, but I'll still show us how to do that. Let me remove it and delete it. Let me delete it so that I can show you how to do it. I'm coming. Okay, sorry about that. I need to just quickly send out something. Okay, so I wanted to show us how to link our external CSS. That was what you wanted to know, Abby, Elise.
No, like link an external like HTML file. How do I
Okay,
say
so
like
that there will be more
yes,
than one HTML in a document.
yes.
All right, I'll show you now. We'll do it now. We'll do
Okay, ma.
both for the CSS and for the HTML. So this is how the CSS, if you see my folder, this is how my folder looks like. Hope your own folder too is like this, right? My classwork, there's a folder called classwork. In the folder, I have my CSS, image, JavaScript, right? Then my index. So I want to link my CSS, my external CSS. So for the person that didn't get how to link the external CSS, please pay attention. All right, so I want to add my external CSS, right, to the what, to the image. So I'll come here, so you can see that it's empty. Then I'll click on new file. This place here is new file. And I'll write what, main dot what, CSS. So can you see that? So I have a folder called main.css inside my CSS. Notice what I did. I first clicked on the CSS first before I clicked on this new file. So if you cannot do this from here, what you just do is that you just come here, click new file. When you click new file, then click on save as. Then you save it inside your CSS folder. You can do that, right? So after I did that, I came back to my what? Index. Now I want to link it. I want to link my index, right? So now that I want to link my index, this is this thing I'm going to use, the tag. Then I'll come here for my href. Don't forget, it's in a folder called what? CSS. And I said it's what? Case sensitive. So it's exactly how I spelled the CSS here. That's how I'll come here to and spell it. So can you see that? This slash is just indicating that, oh, there's a folder called CSS. Then in that folder, there's another file called what? main.css. And boom, we have that. But if we want to link our HTML, so you see that I close this CSS file first. Then now I'm on the what? Now I'm on the what? Classwork folder. Then I create a new file. Then maybe this new file, I want to call it home.what? HTML. Because it's an HTML file. Right? So let me put my exclamation mark. So can you see that? So I want to link this my index to my home and my home to my index. So I'll come here, I'll use my A tag. So I'll use my A tag, then I'll put this what name index.html here. And the name I'll put in between here is what? Then from index, if I want to link my home, so if I want to link index.html for me, I'll come here, I'll put my A tag, right? And we was home.html. Right? And I'll come here and I'll write what? Home. So the moment when I run this, so can you see this home here? So when I click on it, it's going to take me what? To this other page, home. And in home, I can see home. If I click on this home, it's going to take me what? To index. So can you see that? Can we see that? So do we all get how to link our CSS and our HTML now? So if you've gotten this, can I get a thumbs up? Did you say no?
I was lost. I don't know what you guys were doing. Network logged me out.
What did you stop hearing?
I think when you were trying to open classwork folder
Okay.
from VS Code.
Okay, yeah. So I wanted to link our what? Our CSS to our file. And I also linked HTML. So how to link the CSS? I came here, I opened the old folder from here, right? So when I opened the old folder, the old classwork folder came up. Then I clicked on CSS folder. Then I came here and I clicked on new file. Can you see it? New file. So when I clicked on new file, I gave it a name. I gave it main.what? CSS. So when
wait,
I gave
don't understand. Ma, in the classwork folder, we'll create another folder called CSS.
Normally we've created that. I don't know if you did the last time.
I don't think so. I did. Just classwork folder what I created.
So in your classwork folder, your classwork folder should look like this. Should have your
CSS
image JS.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. That.
Then in your CSS, we would save what? Main.css. Then in this main.css, we'll now what? Link our main.css to this our index. Right? In the head. So can you see that? So if you've gotten what I've said to this point, can I get a thumbs up?
So you said in the CSS, if I open it,
If you open the file, if you open the new file,
I've opened classwork folder on VS Code and I've created my CSS folder. It's showing here. So how do I create the is it main.css?
Yeah, so open the CSS folder in this. At the moment now, this is opened. This is
if
closed.
it's down.
If it's down, it's opened.
Okay.
If it's facing left, is what's closed. So open it.
Okay.
When you open it, you see this new file, right? When you click on new files, give you opportunity to write the name. Then you write the name main.css.
Are we putting that hash or to put by itself?
No, to put it by yourself.
Okay.
So when you've created your main.css, you now go back to your index.html, right? So when you go back to your index.html, then you link it in your head using this link. And the way you saved, name the CSS folder / how you save. So it's not necessary, it's not all the time that it can be main.css. You can call it any name.css. It can be style.css. It can be ijama.css, anything you want. You'll just make sure that when you are linking it, you link it with the exact name. Like if you use capital letter, use capital letter. If you use small letter, use small letter.
Link.
Do you get?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So I said, if you are on the same page with me, can I get a thumbs up so we can move, please? Is your lady Jara that is with me? Okay. I can see 2 thumbs up. I can see Merube and Ijaya. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so I've seen more hands. All right, Chinedu, do you have something to say? I can see you raising your hand. Okay.
Yeah, I've linked mine.
All right. So let's do this first exercise here, right? In that our classwork. Now we've linked, right? So we want to find the set of styles tagged in the end, right? So in between the 2 tags, write the selector for the body tag of your element. Next, add a color that is property with a value of blue.
This ended the estimate one with our picture number.
Yes, the one with
So
your
picture
picture.
and cats. Okay.
Yes, the one with your name, your picture, all of those things.
Hello, ma.
Yes.
Like, can you please, which folder is opened in the VS Code? I had to do something, so I was not following.
Is your classwork.
Okay.
We should open the body selector in main.css.
Yes, the CSS you just opened.
Okay.
Open the body selector. When you open this body selector, give it a color blue. And you notice that all the text on your page will be what? Blue. And run it and see what happens.
Blue.
So have you done that?
Yeah, I'm trying to run it.
Okay. You will notice that all the text page will now be what? Blue. So we've done this before, so let's not waste time here. This is an exact code. So I even taught us more than exact code. So there are a lot of CSS properties which let us style the text in our HTML. They listed some: font size, font width, font style, font family, color, length, height. Tolu, please, can you check your chart? Tolu, please, can you check your charts? So now let's edit our body. And now let's give it this color and this font family. I'll see show us how to properly link a font family. But let's do that. So let's remove that color blue and let's have this. Tolu, please, I sent you a message.
I want to ask something. I want to ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to run the code. It's giving me localhost. I don't understand.
Okay, so just go to your.
And it's creating the VS Code is creating a .vs code under class of a launch.json.
No, don't launch using JSON.
It's creating it. I said launch without debugging, and it created this two, is it class or whatever I call it.
Just go to where you save your folder and double click from there.
Is it the index.html?
Yes, where you save the index.html. Just double click from there. So have you done this? Have you added a color that has the hashtag 4444 and the font family? Have you done that? Okay, yes, we've done that. All right. So wait, I'm coming. So the font family property accepts a list of font names, right? This first font is your choice, your first choice fonts. And the next ones are fallbacks in case that the font is not available. Not all fonts are commonly available, so try to stick to Websafe fonts. So there's something called Websafe fonts, right? If you notice in this place, they use 3. And why they use 3 is because it's not all the old websites or browser that identify this vertical. So in the web page where they not see this vertical, it will see Arial as a backup. The place where you not see Arial, we see sans serif. At least is to see one of these 3, right? So they're not saying that it's always important that you stick to web safe fonts. So there are some fonts that are web safe, that is, no matter the browser, they are going to run on it. So they listed the web safe fonts. We have Arial, we have Verdana, we have Times New Roman, we have Georgia, and we have what? Korea. All right.
What?
So once
Sorry,
you
Excuse me,
make,
ma. Excuse me,
yeah,
ma. Please, the color you said we should add right now, is it to our classwork folder?
yeah, so your classwork.
I can't see the color. The color you said we should add.
Okay, thank you, ma.
So in your body, then your body, you should have what? A color and your font family. So after that, now we want to change our font size. So we want to change our H1 and H2. You know, we use H1, we use like 1 H1, and we use like 3 or 2
Institute.
H2. Yes.
What font family do you say we should use? Or can I use anyone?
Hey God, I'm coming.
Please, which color did we use for the body?
All right, so can we see it? Can we see the color code, and can we see the font family?
Yes.
All right, so that's what I'm supposed to use.
But mine started with Arial. Mine started with Arial first, Helvetica, and sans serif.
So anyhow you want to write it. So far you just have these 3.
Okay.
So now let's change our fonts. You know, we had H1 when we wrote
Yes.
the markup. So we should have our font size H2. So let's do that. Let's increase our font size.
It's 8.
So who else is done? Who else is done? If you're done, just type on the group chat, say done. All right. So well done, guys. So let's move to the next one. So now I want to add a what? A line height, right? In our P. So we want to make our P look more easy to read, right? We want to give it a spacing. So it's specified as a multiple of the font size. So a value of 1.4 means that the line will be 1.4 times tall as the text. So let's do that. Okay, sorry about that. So let's add our P. So the P just means that the is 1.4 means the line will be 1.4 times as tall as the text. So that's what it means basically. So let's add this to our code. So now we've added our body, we've added H1, we've added H2. So now we're adding P. So let's do that. All of these are just two simple selectors, right? So if you finish adding this P, type done. Okay. 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 Who else is done? Okay.
Ma, anytime I open the main.css file in VS Code, my Chrome, like the index.html, the one I've run on the Chrome browser will disappear. Why? I have to click or run again.
I don't know, maybe it's your laptop because mine does not disappear, right? So if you've opened it once, you don't have to always keep opening it again. If you opened it once, you can just go back there and be reloading. Can you see? You can just be reloading when you're making changes.
Let me see now. Okay.
So before we style our image, let's quickly look at something. So let's look at how to, before we style our image. I can see that you're raising your hand up. Do you have a question, Chinedu?
No, ma, I don't know what's wrong with the tag.
So this out is just showing us 3 ways to insert our CSS. I've showed us external a few minutes ago. Then for inline, this is internal. Internal will be between your words. Internal will be between your text, between your index.html, your HTML style. That's for internal, right? Then we have for external, inline. So inline will be on the what elements. Then we have multiple styles. So you are looking at an external style has the following style, right? So we assume that an external style has the following style for H1 elements, right? Then assume that an internal style also has the following style for H1 elements. So always know that whenever you have multiple style sheets, that is, you use inline and you use external. So if the internal is defined after the link to the external, as is the H1, the H1 element will be orange, right? But however, if the internal style is defined before the link to the external sheets, then it's the internal that will be defined. So there's a cascading order, right? So in this cascading order, it just shows you what styles will be used when there is more than one style specified for an HTML element. So like I explained earlier, if for instance in your inline for H1 you did an inline, then you now did external for that same H1, you now also did internal for that same H1, right? So there's a particular order. So all the styles in a page will cascade into a new virtual style sheet by the following rules, where number one has the highest priority. So the one that has the highest priority will be the inline, the one that's inside an HTML element. If you styled, excuse me. So if you start using the three of them, internal and external and inline, the inline inside the HTML will be the one that will have the highest priority. After that, it will be the external and the internal style sheets in the end. Then before the browser default. So there's a browser default style, right? That's why if you notice that sometimes you don't even have to add some things in your HTML, and your browser has already made it look fine, it has already given it some CSS. So in the cascading order, it is always going to pick your inline style first, before your external and your internal, and before your browser default. So let's try this exercise. So there are some exercises in the how to. Let's try them. So there are like 4 exercises in the how to. So let's do that.
Hello, ma.
Yes.
Ma, please, I have a question.
All right.
Like, I got confused at a point when you were talking of putting the body style, the H1 style, the H2 style, and the P style. Is it in that main.css file that we're going to
Yeah,
put, or the index file?
the main.css, we're writing the CSS for our classwork code.
Oh, okay.
So it's in the classwork environment you are going to put that.
Okay, ma.
So let's do our exercise quickly.
Hello, Mr. T.
Yes.
I want to ask the link, will I put it in the HTML file or in the CSS? When I want to link the file together.
Is your
Will it be?
HTML.
Okay, thank you.
And it will be in your head.
Hello, Mr. T, we can't hear you.
I said you should do this exercise. That's why I'm not saying anything. So I'm waiting for you to tell me that you are done. So in this how-to exercise, there are 4 exercises in this how-to. So let's do that. Okay, exercise done. How many people are done? Just 2 people. So I'm waiting for 3 more people. All right. Let's look at the next one's comments. So can remember we talked about commenting what HTML, right? Comment also applies in what CSS. And CSS comment is the same as HTML comment in the sense that they do not display in your browser, but they can help you understand your document source, right? They can help you understand your document source. And the comments are used to explain the code and may help when you edit the source code at a later date. And comments are ignored by the browser. The CSS comment is placed inside the style element and it starts with slash and asterisk, and it ends with asterisk and slash. So you can click on the try it yourself to see it. So you can also have multiple line code. I can have single line. And how to write that, you can use it in two ways. Is that use it like this or use it like that? Do you understand? All right. So you can click it on the chart yourself to see it. So HTML and CSS comment. From the HTML tutorial, you would have learned. Can you mute yourself, please? So from the HTML tutorial, you would have learned that you can add documents to your HTML source by using the tag, exclamation mark, dash, dash, dash syntax. You can use a combinator of HTML and CSS elements. That is, you can add both of them together. But you can only add both of them together in the case whereby you're using an inline styling, whereby your inline CSS is in your HTML. So the part where you have your inline styling, you can put your tag, your comments there, and you can also
I have
put
a question.
HTML. All right, so what's your question?
Why, like, can we also use this HTML, this thing tag for comment? You can't use it, you can't work in CSS on, right? This
Yes. Yes, you
open,
can.
it can't, ba? Or
Yes.
it can?
It can't. It can't.
Okay.
Why this one is even working here is because it's in the internal style. If it's not in the internal style, it will not work because HTML deals with tags, right? So your HTML deals with tags. So yes. So that's that about comments. So for colors, so colors are specified using predefined color names or RGB values. We've seen this in when we're doing HTML. So either it can be specified using the normal name or you use whatever you want to use. So we talked about this a lot when we were doing those other ones. So there's no point wasting time here, right? The other thing is just to refresh our memory. RGBA uses alpha. That's what that A stands for. Then the hexa, right? We have the hexa values. Then we have the what? HSL. It's similar to the one we did before. So no point wasting time. So let's go back to backgrounds. So there are a lot of backgrounds when you're using CSS. So the CSS background properties, I used to add background effects for your elements. So in this chapter, you'll learn. Yes. I'll share it. I'll share it after this class. So in this chapter, you will learn about the following CSS background properties, right? So we have background color, we have background image, we have background repeats, we have background attachments, we have background position, and we have background. So I'll explain all of these properties, and you're going to see how these properties work. But prior to this time, I'm sure we are all familiar with background color because we did it when we were trying to do images, right?
Yes,
so when
ma'am.
we're trying to do images, it showed background image too. When we're trying to link images, you saw how you can link background image using your URL. Can everybody remember? Well, if you cannot remember, in this class, you'll be reminded about it. So your background property sets the background color of an element. So it gives your background color a particular element. The way your color, when you define your color, you define text. Background color is going to define the background. I remember when we were doing the calculator yesterday, when we gave the background color of black, and everywhere that the calculator was going to contain had a what? Background color. black. And with CSS, a color is most likely specified by a valid name color, a HEX value, RGB, and the likes. So you can also look at CSS color values for a complete list of possible colors. Right, so these are your CSS colors. And in cases whereby you need to like get the colors before you link them, what you do is that there's something called color wheel. Right, I'll show us. So there's something called what? Color wheel. And in your color wheel, you can get to mix your color picker, color picker. So you can get to pick the color you want. It will help you put it in RGB, HXV, HEX, HSL. I'm sure we don't know this CMYK. I didn't teach us, so don't worry, it's fine. But you know at least 5 here. 5 of these ones here, you know them. The HEX, RGB, HSV, and HSL. So you just use it. So you use your color picker to achieve that. So there are also other elements. So you can set background color. Say color. You can set background color for other different backgrounds. We have H1P and our div element, and there's something called opacity and transparency. That's what our HSL specialized in. Right? You can remember when we did HSL values. It's specialized on that. I'm coming. Give me a few minutes. So our HSL specialized on that, right? So our opacity and transparency is based on how transparent a value or a color can be. So that's also a property. So you can use transparency using RGB also. And also, I can also use it in the other ones. So you can click on that, try it yourself. You see the different ways you can use the background color. Then the background image, if you cannot remember from when we did it, this is an opportunity for you to pick it up. So the background image property specifies an image to use as the background of an element. So by default, the image is repeated so that I can cover the entire element. So there's a particular part of your web page which is just your background, which can cover your background, right? No one will get to see it. We will use it in our classwork example. There's an example like that in our classwork example. So you set the background image for a page, what you can see there, right? So the page, you give it a what? Background image, then you say URL. The way you do URL, you will now put the source of that image, that is the image name and the source type. So that's how you link your background image. So this example shows a combination of text and background image. The text is hardly readable, right? So see it. So this text is not easy to read on this image. So always use a background image that will enable your images or your text so that your text will be easy to read. Don't put complicated background image. You can use this image now if you're doing any other part of your website whereby you don't want your images to be on top. But for your background image, the idea of background image is so that you can have text, right? So that you can have text on top of that image. So in cases where you have text on top, don't use an image whereby it will make the text or hard to read or readable. So in most cases, always use what to allow your text to be very easy to read, so that you can easily read it. Okay. And also know that when you're using a background image, use an image that does not disturb the text. That's what I just emphasized. And background image can also be set for specific elements. So it's not always in your, yes, the opacity can be reduced. You can reduce the opacity. You can reduce the opacity. It's not just only for colors, you can reduce the opacity for image. Opacity is a property, right? Is a property. So if you think that the opacity for image, you don't like it, right? You can reduce the opacity using the opacity property. Then the repeat, they said by default, if you use your background image, it uses repeat until it covers the entire thing, right? So by default, the image property repeats an image both horizontally and vertically. So some image should be repeated only horizontally or vertically, or they will look strange. So this is an example. Let's click on this so that you can see it. So can you see this image? Can you see that this background is strange? It's looking strange because of how it was what's repeated. So if the image above is repeated only horizontally, the background will look better, right? So for us to do that, for us to only, can you see? It's repeated only horizontally, it was not repeated vertically. This was when it was repeated both vertically and horizontally. Can you see how it looked? And now it's just only repeated horizontally. So for you to repeat only horizontally, you put what? Repeat X. X is for the horizontal side. And if you wanted to repeat vertically, you do repeat what? Y. Right? So it's going to repeat Y. So if you just, because now we just only want it to be only horizontal, that's why we use what? X, and we didn't use what? Y. So to repeat an image vertically, you set it to Y. Same thing I just said. And if you don't want it to repeat at all, you put the property no repeat. So when you put the property no repeat, it's not going to repeat, right? So for this one, if you put no repeat, it's not going to repeat. Then we also have CSS background position. Like where we want to position it. Should it be at the right top? Should it be somewhere else? You can check this, try it yourself when we go on break, because we're going on break in the next like 9 minutes. So you can click on that, try it yourself to see it. So we also have background attachment property. So this property specifies whether the background image should scroll or should be fixed. So what it just means that, do you want your background image to be in a fixed position, or should you be able to scroll it, right? So I'll click on this chart yourself so you see what I mean. So can you see this background property, right? So if you scroll now, it's fixed. As I'm scrolling down the page, the background is not moving with it. The background is fixed. So everything we're doing will scroll on that background, right? But if we put scroll, this is how it works. So can you see that the background image scrolled with it? It was not fixed. before the text was on the image, it was going on the image. But in this case, when you scroll, the background image is scrolling. It's not fixed, right? So can you see the difference between the scroll and the fix? It's a property used for your background. So we call this what? Background attachments. So it's either you make it what? Scroll, or this one is fixed. So can you see that the image, the background did not move? It's just your text that is moving. Your background is fixed, it's not moving anywhere. Why for this one is what? It moved. So can you see that? All right. So there's also background shorthand. So the shorthand property is just to shorten your code. And it is also possible to specify all the background properties in one single property. So this is called a shorthand property. So instead of writing something like this, right? Background color, your image tree, where should it be placed? Should be placed at the right top, no repeats. So instead of it to have something like this, you can just only declare background. And when you just only declare background, you declare everything that you need for that background. Maybe background color, you put the background color code. Background image, you put the image link. If you notice, they were putting space after every declaration they were making. So it's not together. So you can see that there's a space. So instead of you to write it, like 111, you can write it what? Together. This is everything together. So can you see that? So when you're using your shorthand property, the order of the property value, there's an order for it to use that shorthand property. So if it recognizes the first one as color, the second one as image, the third one as repeat, the fourth one as attachment, and the last one as position. So it doesn't matter if one of the property values is missing. As long as the orders are in this order, it will work. So just ensure that they follow this order. It's not like when you finish declaring about images and repeats, you're not going to put color at the end. No. Color is always going to be the first thing. So if you don't even need color, color is not going to be part of things you want to use, you can start with image, and you will not return your color again. You will not put your color in the return this thing again. So just start at that what? Color. Is that clear? So let's do this exercise, and after we do this exercise, we'll go on break. Then we'll continue after.
Now, please, I have a question.
All right. So what's your question?
I was trying to do the background image
All right.
on my phone, but it's not showing.
So how did you declare it?
I declared it in the body, then I just tried background image. The picture I was going to put, it was in the same folder with the index.html file. That's the classwork folder. So I just put the name of the image .jpg inside that.
Did you put the folder image?
No.
Okay.
So I just put it in the same folder with the index so that declaring the location will be very easy. So the only thing I just had to do was just to write the name of the image, then the format, but it's not working.
Let me make you go share your screen. Let me see it.
I'm using my phone. My phone, so I can't share my screen. Can I snap and send to the group?
Yeah, if you snap and send to the group, I can't see it now because my phone is very low. So I offed my WhatsApp connection so that I can just get us through this first class. Right? But in the next, like after the break, my phone will be charged. At the moment, my phone is
Ma, we on break. Hello? Oh, okay, no problem.
Mr. T, sorry, are we on break now? Hello, Mr. T.
She's not on the call again. She complained of her phone battery earlier, so I guess her battery is low.
Okay, it's actually time for break. Or is there any class